On behalf of the management of JMJ College for Women, Tenali, I, Ms. K. Arunodaya, lecturer in physics, delighted to welcome you all for the second day of one-week national webinar from FDP on political institutions and Indian democracy. Let us commence our webinar with a prayer song seeking God's blessings.
Lord, I offer my life to you. Everything I've been through, use it for your glory. And Lord, I offer my days to you, lifting my praise to you as a pleasing sacrifice. Lord, I offer you my life. Sing it. Lord, I offer my life to you. Everything I've been through, use it for your glory. And Lord, I offer my days to you, lifting my praise to you as a pleasing sacrifice. Lord, I offer you my life.
Before we commence the session, I would like to give you a few instructions. Dear participants, please mute your audio and switch off your video throughout the webinar in order to avoid inconvenience. If you have any questions during the presentation of the resource person, please post your questions in the chat box and the queries and questions will be clarified at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your kind cooperation. I cordially welcome Dr. Sister Theresa Magade, correspondent of our college, Dr. Sister Shaini KP, the principal, today's eminent speaker, Dr. E. Venkateshu, Professor, Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad, and all the participants across the country to this webinar cum faculty development program organized by the Department of Political Science, JMJ College for Women, Tenali. It's a great privilege for me to introduce our resource person, Dr. E. Venkateshu, Professor, Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad, who will be discussing on the topic Politics and Public Policy in Post-Independent India. Professor E. Venkateshu has completed his higher education from Hyderabad Central University and Jawaharlal Nehru University. At present, he is professor in the Department of Political Science, Hyderabad Central University, and part of the Center for the Study of Developing Societies Lokniti Network. He was faculty in the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. He worked as training and research coordinator in Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty and fellow SRTT Nandi Foundation. He has been a member in the International Public Policy Association. He was member in the delegation led by the Union Minister for Panchayati Raj and Rural Development. Government of India in 2010 to Norway. His areas of interest are public policy, governance, and election studies. His articles are published in Economic and Political Weekly, and writings are published by Routledge. He has been a regular contributor to dailies and extensively participating in the discussions over the electronic media. He has completed about 40 research projects and 20 papers are published in national and international journals and edited volumes. He has been a regular resource person of NIR, DPR, MCR, HRD, academic institutions, and civil society organizations for the training of the elected public representatives, officials, academicians, and NGOs. He is a member of the expert committee constituted for designing BA honors course by Telangana State Higher Education Council 2021. He is the member of the committee for the implementation of New Education Policy 2020 by the University of Hyderabad. He has visited Norway, Bangladesh, Singapore, and USA. Now, I invite Dr. E. Venkateshu sir to address our esteemed participants of the webinar come FDP. Welcome you, sir.
Um, echoing.
Sir, please unmute, sir. Venkatesh, sir, please unmute. Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Yeah, now is it audible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. It is my pleasure to interact with the practicing academicians from different parts of the country, I hope. I'm thankful to Dr. Vishrantama garu for inviting me to interact and deliver a talk with the academicians cutting across the disciplines, basically the multidisciplinary, it seems, from the profile of the participants it has been indicating. When something is echoing, right? My voice is clear or something is echoing? Madam Vishrantama garu,
clear,
my
sir.
voice is echoing as it is clear?
Sir, it is clear, sir.
Okay, fine. I just now I sent my PPT. It seems that the screen is not sharing from my side. If you can open at your side, it would be nice. I send my PPT, madam.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you are using two instruments, I think, sir, there. So,
Pardon?
you are using two mail IDs, sir. You, two inputs, sir.
Echo వస్తుంది కదా? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Let me. అన్ని క్లోజ్ చేయండి ఓపెన్ చేస్తాను. Yeah. Now is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you able to see the PPT?
PPT, okay, sir.
Okay. Right. Um, Uh, so I'm happy to interact with the practicing academicians from multidisciplinary uh, faculty members from different parts of the state of Andhra Pradesh, in particular, probably other parts of the country as well. Today I want to speak about the politics and public policy in post-independent India, a retrospective analysis of the uh, emerging issues in Indian politics and public policy. So, let me, before starting straightway going into the topic, let me have a very brief feedback with the participants. So, what is it that it is coming to your mind the moment on which, when you start speaking about the politics and public policy? Some of you must respond and speak the thing that I am expecting from you. What is it that is coming to your mind? First of all, what is meant by the politics and what is meant by the public policy? Let me know from your side. Would you like to respond, someone from the participants side? Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Would you like to respond to my very simple question?
Yes,
What
sir.
is your understanding of the politics? What is meant by politics? We are all living in the society which is fully, almost every day, day in, day out. We are all being influenced by the politics.
Sir,
So
good
what
evening, sir.
does it what do you have understood politics?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Politics means studying about political institutions, sir, and its process.
Okay. Why do you want to study institutions and process?
Yes,
What
sir.
is
It is
there in
the
the
part.
institutions and process?
Yes, sir. It is the part of the life, and the institutions, so-called institutions, only guide the administration. In which way the administration should be gone, sir.
No, politics means it is not only the administration.
It doesn't mean that it is confined to institutions.
Okay.
It mainly deals with the political institutions, sir.
Political institutions. Yes, you are right. You are right. Political institutions and process. These two aspects are very important for the politics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
Good
what
evening,
is there
sir.
in the institutions? Yes, Ambalika Yadav. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. So politics can be defined as all the activities which the government of the day does um, to run the nation, run the country, basically.
Now, what is there in
Governance.
the government? So many. You said you are right. All the
Good.
activities of the government in running of the country.
Yes, sir.
What are
The
the?
institution, the organ.
Why does government take so many activities?
Sir, as per my knowledge, uh, politics is all about struggling for power and acquiring that power.
Yeah, yeah, you are
And
right. That is what I was expecting. The power. Politics is essentially dealing with the power. Yeah, that
And
is very
public
important.
policy is the allocation of resources, distribution of resources equally, and it is done through public policy.
Yes, yes. Yeah, three dimensions. As of now, three dimensions. One is institutions, processes, and then another one is government act, all the activities of the government in order to run the country. Is this is the very important third aspect is power, dealing with the power, and which has got so many implications of the public policy. Yeah, these are the three aspects. Any other would like to respond? Yes, Nagaratna Reddy. Yeah, would you like to respond? Yeah, there are three aspects have been emerging. So any other would like to respond on the idea of politics? There are about 70 participants. Yeah, would you like to respond? Yeah, if we can arrange these three important dimensions. One is politics essentially dealing with the power, distribution of the resources through the public policy. Public policy is an instrument for the addressing the question of the distribution of the resources, because of it is the only power that has got the capacity in order to distribute the resources. In order to distribute the resources, you need the institutions. You need the political institutions, administrative institutions, governance institutions, institutions for the participation of the people. It is because of government as an instrument of the state has been initiating the series of activities. The several activities are being initiated by the state. That is the state power, policies, resources. For these aspects, you need the government, and government requires, government is supposed to take up the series of activities for its existence, continuity, and discontinuation. So that is the quite very important, one important dimension which is coming from the participants. So anybody else would like to respond?
Sir, yes, sir, you are
Are you all
right.
there?
Politics is nothing but distributing the resources to all the people in the society, as said by David Easton also, sir. That is one of the important aspects, sir.
Okay. Yes, David Easton is a very important political scientist. Yes.
He emphasized on the distribution of resources to the people, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that is we have just come, that is the politics dimension that we have got the some set of idea about the what is meant by the politics. Now we are coming to the understand what is meant by the public policy.
Public policy, basically it intends to frame some schemes for the public, for the well-being of the public.
No, schemes is not
Not only
coming under the
schemes, sir,
purview of public policy.
what are the means to reach the people?
No, programs and schemes, they have got a very narrow aspect, but they are very important. But the definition of the public policy.
Yes, administration can be carried out with the help of policy, sir.
No, I am asking that. Yes, you are right that administration is an instrument to carry on the policy. But definition, what is the classical definition of the public policy? What is Thomas R. Dye says, what Harold D. Laswell says, the public policy.
Public policy, yes, sir.
Thomas R. Dye, in his book titled Understanding of Public Policy, in that book he says that what the state is intended to do and not to do.
Not to do, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Not to do.
Yes,
So
yes.
it may be whatever the state has been doing may be a public policy. What the state is not doing is also public policy. That is what Thomas R. Dye has been
Yes.
defining politics. Of course, that book has been revised and published almost for 24 times. That is a very important definition. And when you come to Harold D. Laswell, what he says that public policy has got three important dimensions. Okay, one is that public policy is a problem-oriented one. Public policy is a problem-oriented. Because there is a problem, therefore you need a policy as a solution. Where from this problem has been arising? Who has created the problem? It is because of a political contestation. There has been, every society is bound to have a conflicts, contestation, instability, lack of peace, dissatisfaction, dissent. This is the background in which you are supposed to locate the public policy as per Harold D. Laswell. Harold D. Laswell is being considered as the father of public policy. He has become a very eminent personality in the area of the public policy in the post Second World War. In fact, he has immensely contributed, and over a period of time, a lot of changes has been taken place in the study of public policy. So one of the important dimensions that Harold D. Laswell has attributed to the policy science is that it is a problem-oriented science. You are supposed to address the problem. As a policy specialist, policy expert, you are saying nowadays we have been using computer specialist, computer IT professional, then doctor, engineer. So similarly, a policy professional, IT professional is important in terms of in the computer technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, which have been today leading the world. Similarly, for the addressing of the socio-economic, political and historical, psychological, cultural and various problems in the society, you require a policy professional. The proper policy professional is supposed to be a solution to the social issues, social problems, economic problems, political problems. Now we say that IT solution, IT professional is supposed to provide a IT solution. So therefore, the policy professional, a doctor as a professional in terms of treating of the patients, when a patient approached with a problem, health issue, the doctor is supposed to treat you because of that they have come up with a health problem, health issue. So similarly, the policy professional is also supposed to provide a policy solution. So therefore, it is a policy oriented as policy, public policy is essentially a policy oriented one. Then the second dimension that has been taken up by Harold D. Laswell is interdisciplinary approach. Interdisciplinary approach. You know, if you look at the historical evolution of the social science knowledge, you can come across at least the three important stages. The age of enlightenment that has emphasized or focused upon that knowledge has got social purpose. The social experience is supposed to be converted into social knowledge, and that social knowledge has got a purpose, social purpose. Knowledge is not for the sake of knowledge. So that has been a discontinuation which has been taken place right from the age of enlightenment. So the age of the enlightenment that has brought about, and this idea of the social knowledge has got the social purpose. Therefore, these new disciplines have came into existence: anthropology, sociology, statistics, psychology, behavioral psychology, etc. But however, they have got some sort of a standalone approach. The standalone approach for the social sciences, which came into existence as a result of the age of the enlightenment. And in the post-Second World War, Harold D. Laswell has focused upon the interdisciplinary aspect. That is, the policy solution are supposed to come out from the coming together of the convergence of the knowledge of various subjects, the various sciences, the various social sciences, including the science, pure science as well, whether it's a genome technology, biotechnology, life science, or even the space technology, the artificial intelligence, and even your economics, statistics, mathematics. No, today, if you are going to analyze, most of the people who have been making an effort on the predicting of the election results. Say, for example, Center for the Study of Developing Societies, most of the political science faculty members must be aware of that organization effort in terms of psephology, study of the elections and election analysis in the country, that was started by Rajini Kothari. it has been focusing both using of the statistics, using of the mathematics, because the CSDS Lokniti collecting the voting behavior data from the field. Once that data is being collected, that is given to the statisticians, that data is sent to the Indian Institute of Statistics, Indian Institute of Technology, for the mathematics professors to look at it from the point of view of mathematical formulations in order to draw the accurate conclusions, accurate generalizations, because when you are going to air telecast the predicting of the elections, exit poll analysis or post poll analysis, you are supposed to be very careful in terms of analysis, because there will be a lot of criticism once you telecast the election analysis. If it goes wrong, then the person who is sitting in the TV studio for the analysis is subjected to the severe criticism. Therefore, if you apply the mathematical models, the statistical models, and draw the conclusions, draw the percentages, then there is a possibility for the accuracy in terms of analysis, so that even setting aside 5 to 10% error in your analysis. So therefore, you require the knowledge, interdisciplinary knowledge, rather than depending upon a standalone knowledge processor on a particular subject. That was emphasized by Harold D. Laswell in the context of making policy science as an interdisciplinary approach, bringing together the different social sciences, including anthropology, sociology, behavioral sciences, economics, mathematics, etc., in order to have some sort of integration and convergence in terms of social science knowledge, so that it will give a comprehensive aspect. And now, when you look at recent in India, the national level report called National Education Policy 2020, that has been emphasizing upon the multidisciplinary approach. So that is the another dimension that has been there in the policy aspect. Now let me, I will come in course of time to discuss about the interdisciplinary education aspect that has been emerging as a result of National Education Policy 2020. So while this is the interdisciplinary aspect is the second dimension that has been provided by Harold D. Laswell. And third dimension is a normative aspect, the normative aspect. You know, you must have seen, you must be familiar with the positivism that has been emphasizing about the fact, the scientific analysis, and is setting aside, it is free from the values. Facts are free from the values. But here, the policy science is taking into account the value system as well, the norms as well. The values are without giving the value to an idea, then you are not going to quantify the importance of the policy idea and the policy solution. So therefore, the policy science is trying to locate itself in a normative dimension, and it is a normative aspect, normative context, and it is not value-free science. Policy science is not a value-free science. But positivism that has been, Auguste Comte has been emphasizing upon the facts. That is the only facts alone are the truth. Fact alone is the truth. But here, the policy science context, as per Harold D. Laswell, it is the values are also truth. The values and facts are supposed to be come together. So then only we will be able to find out the truth that has been the focus of Harold D. Laswell. These are the three important aspects when you are trying to look at it, the policy science. So and you must also be everyone if are you aware of what David Easton says about what is politics, and then policy science, that is the another classical definition that has been existing. Now, so with this brief introduction about the idea of politics and public policy, so now let me come to the India's experience. So India's experience, in order to look at what has been the the policy aspect, whether it is being one can be locating in the context of Thomas R. Day, and then Harold D. Laswell, then David Easton definition, etc. So you all know that in order to locate these classical definition in the context of the classical definition of the politics and public policy. So now when we are trying to locate it in the Indian context, when you look at retrospectively into the Indian context, India has got a long historical process of the administration, the politics. Politics may not be in the democratic context. It has got a long history of. So when you look at Buddhist literature, when you look at the mythology, Indian mythology, when you look at the Arthashastra of Kautilya, and then when you will also look at the historical process from ancient via medieval to modern, colonial period and post-independent period, you can come across there has been India has got a rich legacy of civilization, culture, politics, administration, then the institutions and etc. So that is the therefore we require now in the context of understanding of the policy and administration, it has been a tradition because of historical, the past experience is a some sort of a laboratory for the experimentation of the various ideas, models, institutions, processes, etc. We have the rich historical legacy in terms of ideas, then institutions, processes, etc. When you look at it from the point of view of historical point of view. So there has been a, when you look at Maheshwari and Avasti and Maheshwari, you can come across the administrative history. And then when you look at Yale Basham Wonder, that was history, you can come across what were the kind of institutions that were existed in ancient period. Even Ramila Thapar, D.D. Koshambi, the eminent ancient Indian historians. Similarly, in the medieval period, Sati Chandra, Irfan Habib, and very eminent historians have brought out the series of the institutions that were existed in an Indian state in the history. Subsequently, even modern period as well, you can see one Bipin Chandra, Subin Sarkar, the Ravindra Kumar, eminent historians, and also post-independent period in historians like Rajini Kotari, Rudolf and Rudolf, Franz and R. Frankel, then even the Christopher Jefferlet, Yogendra Yadav, Sanjay Kumar, Suhas Palsekar, Sandeep Shastri, and a series of these people have been contributing immensely to understand the politics and public policy dimension in a post-independent period. And in fact, you must be familiar, lot of literature as faculty of the political science. This is the limited literature I have been referring for your understanding of the today's lecture. Yeah, am I audible? Hello?
Sir, audible, sir.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Sir, you are audible.
Yes, madam?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Okay, fine. So now let me, while with having a rich historical background of the politics and administration, institutions and policy in the past in the Indian context, now what are the politics which have set the agenda for the public policy in post-independent period? So when you look at the literature that has been existing on setting of the politics and public policy in post-independent India, if you read Gail Omved's work, Gail Omved, I hope that most of you must have heard of this book, Dalits and Democratic Revolution, Dalits and Democratic Revolution in colonial Western India. Now, when you read that book, Gail Omved provides an idea that the three important political movements which set the agenda for the post-independent Indian state. So, I hope that you got this point, that Gail Omwether, she's she's a
Excuse me, sir.
sociologist from USA. In her book, Dalits and Democratic Revolution in Western Colonial India, she has traced out three important political movements in order to understand the nature of politics and public policy in post-independent India. So
Excuse
one
me,
is
sir.
yes,
Sir, PPT is not running, sir. Please represent, sir.
yeah. Is it okay?
No, sir.
Stop the presentation and represent the PPT, sir. Again, represent.
Are you not able to see the PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Also, is it not visible?
Not visible, sir.
Okay, just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. It's okay.
Yeah, now is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Galen Weather has identified three important political movements which set the nature of politics and public policy in post-independent India. One is anti-colonial national movement. The anti-colonial Indian national movement that was led by Mahatma Gandhi and Indian National Congress. Now, even if we read Bipin Chandra's book, India's Struggle for Independence, that has been giving a very comprehensive understanding of the Indian national movement, where it has started, when it was started, what were the historical factors which set the agenda for the Indian national movement, what are the trends, what are the different phases of the Indian national movement, that has created a long historical process of the Indian national movement. So when you look at, when you read this India Struggle for Independence, Bipin Chandra's book, he says that, he argues that Indian national movement is as important as 1917 Bolshevik Revolution and as important as Chinese Communist Revolution, and it is also as important as liberal democratic revolutions in Western countries and even America and other countries. So you can see that in the late 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, you can come across the series of liberal democratic revolutions even in the Western countries. Therefore, Bipin Chandra has been equating the Indian national movement that was led by Indian National Congress and Mahatma Gandhi against the British imperialist colonial rule as an important historical process in the Indian, in terms of deciding of the nature of politics in post-independent India. So he must have read even Sumit Sarkar, Modern India, and then series of there has been a lot of literature that has been available. The Center for Historical Studies of Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi University, our own university has immensely contributed a lot about the Indian national movement in the light of the kind of methodology that has been offered by eminent historians. So that is the one important political movement. Second is anti-caste social movement. The anti-caste social movement that was led by Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Ambedkar, and then Periyar, Srinarayan Guru, and other several such a type of social philosophers, social activists, these are the people led the movement in order to liberate the lower castes of the Indian society, the tribal groups, the Adivasis, the untouchables, the lower caste people, the Dalits, for the liberation. Because of in the history of this country, three important human rights have been denied for the lower sections of the society, lowest rank of the society. One is right to education, right to possess the property, and right to rule the state. So these three important rights were cornered, monopolized by three important elite social groups in the society. The education was as per the Chaturvarna system. The education was monopolized by the Brahmins. The political power was cornered by the Kshatriyas. The wealth was garnered by the Vaishyas, whereas the Sudras and Atasudras, they had only labor for their survival. So therefore, there was some set of an oppression and depression in the Indian social system. Therefore, there was a liberation movement that was led by Ambedkar. That was another important social movement which set the agenda for the post-independent political system. And third social movement was the communist movement that was led by the movement against the indigenous feudalism in the country. The anti-feudal, the anti-landlords was the another important third movement that which shaped the nature of the politics and public policy in post-independent India as per Galen with understanding. So as a result of these three political movements, when you look at the Constituent Assembly debates, you must have seen, most of you must be having idea about the Constituent Assembly debates, you must have referred. Even if you are not familiar, you must go through this online nowadays. All those entire documents are available. Who spoke what about in the Constituent Assembly? They are all documented. Now, if you go to the online Google search, you can come across the Constituent Assembly debates. In the past, the 30 years ago, people must be having a lot of difficulty in terms of finding of the appropriate data, accurate data, or because of they were all documented in the hard copies. But today, these are all easily accessible because of due to the information and communication technology that has been available thanks to information and communication technology. That is why Alvin Toffler, in his book Future Shocks, he discusses three important revolutions in the history of the human civilization. One is the agrarian revolution, the second is the industrial revolution, and third is the information and communication revolution. Future Shocks. I hope that some of you must be familiar with that book. So because of we are all living in the age of the information technology, information revolution, we are all able to access the data, whatever the information that has been available today. It was very difficult in before 1990s, because in 1990s, when I was a student of Jawaharlal Nehru University, I used to write a letter, a postcard after registering for the semester. I used to write a letter to my parents in my native village in Kurnool district. That letter used to reach my parents when after completing my semester, when I am in the holiday, when I came back to my village for the vacation after completing of the semester. So that was the kind of situation that was existed in 1990s and before 1990s. But today, in the 21st century, we are all living in the age of information technology. So therefore, if we can browse into the Constituent Assembly debates, which have been available online, you will be able to know what are whether these Constituent Assembly debates have been reflecting the kind of agenda, the kind of politics, the kind of manifesto, the post-independent state manifesto that has been generated by these three political movements is being reflected in the Constituent Assembly or not, that we will be getting some set of an idea. So therefore, this the spirit of these three political movements, you can see in the preamble of the Constitution, in part 3 of the Constitution, and part 4 of the Indian Constitution, that is the fundamental rights and directive principles of the state policy. So it is the directive principles of the state policy that set the agenda for the post-independent India. It is the directive principles of the state policy which set the agenda for the post-independent Indian state. What it is, even though there have been directives, may not be legally binding upon the Indian state, but it is an inevitable upon the Indian state to follow in terms of making policy, in terms of distribution of the resources, in terms of making politics as a device for the sharing of the power, in terms of sharing of the power. So they became the directives, the guiding principles of the post-independent state. It cannot be set aside. But at the same time, even though citizen may not be having the right to go and challenge in the court of justice in order to seek the justice under the legal dimension, however, they are inevitable upon the Indian state in order to follow, in order to inevitably make them into a policy dimension, provide some set of a materialization of the thought process that has been reflecting in the constituent in the part 4 of the Indian Constitution, which was the result of a Constituent Assembly debate, and that the debates were emerged as a result of the 3 political movements which took place before 1947 in this country. Now, when you look at, when you see the kind of literature that has been existing to understand to the study of the politics and public policy in post-independent India, you must have heard very eminent political scientist Rajni Kothari in his book Politics in India. He says that in India the political parties, bureaucracy and centralized planning commission are the instruments for policy making. So if we can look at the observation of Rajni Kothari, politics in India, most of you must be familiar, especially the faculty members of the political science. It has came into existence in 1960s and 70s, the 1970s, and it says that the first sentence of the book is that if modernization is the central tendency of our times, it is politicization that provides its driving force. That means the politics, if politics is the driving force of the modern days, the liberal democracy. So therefore, he has come to a conclusion that 3 important institutions which have been playing significant role when he was studying about the Indian political process and politics, that is the political parties, the steel-framed colonial bureaucracy, and again the borrowed idea of the planning commission from the Soviet Union by Jawaharlal Nehru. These are the 3 important institutions which were which used to decide the nature of the planning policy in the country. Of course, the planning commission has been set aside, and it is being replaced by Niti Aayog. So that is what Rajni Kothari says. And when you come to Myron Weiner is the another important scholar who has studied the politics and policy in India, and exclusively he wrote 2 important articles in Economic and Political Weekly in 1979. He has identified what are the institutions which have been taking part in terms of making of the public policy. One is the research institutions. The research institutions includes the councils, organizations, institutions, bureaus, units, ministries, and directorates of union and state governments. So this includes, say for example, councils. The Myron Weiner has identified that the councils have been providing the inputs in order to make the policies. That is the Indian Council of Social Science Research. Indian Council of Social Research is one of the important institutions. No, even in America, also, when you look at this behavioral revolution, there are series of institutions have came into existence. The Ford Foundation was there to in order to provide the financial assistance as well as generate the inputs for the policy making. So councils he was referring Myron Weiner to Indian Council of Social Science Research. Organizations, the research organizations, they say, for example, at the state level also ICSR has been supporting the research organizations, and say, for example, Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISAC, Center for Economic and Social Change, then administrative training institutions, and then say, for example, national level institute organizations such as organizations and institutions like National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, then manage, norm, these are all related to the agriculture. If you come and if you go and see Rajendra Nagar of Hyderabad in Telangana state, you can come across at least 3 dozens of central government organizations and institutions in order to conduct the research in the country. You name any field, there is a central government institution. Say, for example, poultry, there is a National Institute for the Poultry. There is a National Institute for the Fisheries. There is a National Institution for the Cooperatives. There is a National Institute for the Agriculture. There is a National Institution for the Basra, Jawar, Millets, Indian Institute of Millets, Center of Excellence. Because in the context of the International Year of Millets 2023, this institute has got a lot of significance. So these are the kind of organizations and institutions which have been providing policy inputs. It is not the only social sciences which have been providing. No, Indian Space Research Organization that has been providing geoinformatics, the science, the meteorological department. We don't know whether God is able to send, give the message, information to their devotees whenever there has been a cyclone or tufan or landsliding. But today we are able to, the meteorological scientists are able to predict, anticipate in advance the cyclone and the weather reports, and they are providing in advance so that the disaster management has been able to take an advanced action. Because of these are the kind of organizations, the Indian Space Research Organization, the Meteorological Department, then Indian Institute of Science, etc. Or there are series of institutions, and then there are bureaus. Statistics and Economic Bureau in Hyderabad. There is a Statistics and Economic Bureau. Every state government is having Statistics and Economics Bureau because that is an official organization in order to document the annual documents of the state government to provide an authentic data about the development of a particular state right from the origin to ending. So if you can come and see, if you can visit in this Bureau of Statistics and Economics in Hyderabad, you will be able to see the kind of developmental data economics, etc. The entire geographical, socio-economic profile of Andhra Pradesh from 1956 to 2014. And again, the same institute has started documenting the statistical, economic, and other government-related data in terms of generating of the annual reports by this Bureau of the Statistics and Economics at Hyderabad. And not just in Hyderabad, across the country, in every state capital, in all the state capitals, there has been a Bureau of the Statistics and Economics. And then units in every ministry, every department, whether you go to the education department, agriculture department, or science and technology, or whatever the department you take, women and child welfare department you take, there is a unit in order to document the research ideas, document the ongoing process, monitoring process. The monitoring reports are also very important source of the data for the policy decision making. And then ministry, in every ministry there has been a research and development activity, and the directorates of union and state governments are that is the one important source in order to generate the inputs for the policy data according to Myron Weiner. The second is government funding autonomous research institutions, government funding research, autonomous research institutions, administrative training institutions. No, ATIs, every state government has got it, autonomous institution. There is a, say for example, Marlichanna Reddy Human Resource Development Institute in Hyderabad. And in fact, Andhra Pradesh also has got at Visakhapatnam Human Resource Development for the research purpose. Previously, it was being located in Nagarjuna University. I was told that it has been shifted to Visakhapatnam. So similarly, these are institutions have got everywhere. And then you can also see that Administrative Staff College of India, ASCI, that is again located in Hyderabad, because Hyderabad is known for central and state government institutions. According to Justice Sri Krishna Committee, there are about 145 central and state government institutions in Hyderabad alone. So that is the autonomous research. That is the another important example for the autonomous research institutions like Administrative Staff College of India. Even you can also see Center for Good Governance is the another institution, such a another example for the autonomous research institutions. Autonomous means that they are free from the bureaucratic control. They can also, autonomous research organizations can critically analyze the existing data or policy framework. Whereas the first category of the institutions, they will be functioning within the control of the bureaucracy and political executive. They will not be having much scope for the criticizing of the government. Whereas you can, whereas these autonomous research institutions, they can criticize the government. So therefore, Myron Weiner has identified the autonomous research institutions is the another category which have been providing policy support. The third is degree guaranteeing higher educational institutions. You know, there are few hundreds of universities today in the country, and private universities have been mushrooming in the private sector, corporate sector as well. And you can come across, you must have seen Azim Premji University, Jindal Global, Geetam University, and across the country. These are some of the examples for the private universities. And there are within again academic institutions, universities, the central government institutions and state government institutions. I don't know nowadays to what extent the state governments having the sufficient faculty members in order to take up the serious research projects. That is a critical issue. Faculty is a critical issue in the state universities. And nowadays you can also see in terms of providing of the higher education, foreign universities. Today in the country, there are 4 types of higher education institutions: state higher education institutions, degree colleges and universities, central universities, foreign universities, and private universities. So these are the institutions. In these institutions, public policy has become very important. Jindal University, Jindal Global University, MA in Public Policy and Governance for 2 years degree, they are collecting 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs. Here in this Indian School of Business, ISB is also introduced 2 years Masters in Public Policy. Their 2 years degree is 15 to 20 lakhs. 15 to 20 lakhs. It is also just like any computer science degree. So policy science has also reached to such an important stage where it is able to create the demand for the social science people also. It is able to create the demand for the policy science people also. And because these people who have been studying, have become a specialist in the policy science, are also becoming very important policy advisors, not only at the state and central government level, even at the international organizations as well. Now, when you look at the profile of the consultants of the World Bank, United Nations, and other international organizations, they are all specialized in the public policy. So, therefore, today the public policy has been becoming very important aspect, and which is being offered by the all these universities, but I don't know to what extent the state government institutions have been focusing on public policy. And in fact, in most of the Western universities, public political science is set aside, and now they have introduced MA in public policy. Most of the Western universities. But in Indian universities, political science as public administration is an important aspect. And of course, in the state universities to what extent, but central universities have been moving towards policy science and governance. And fourth category of the institutions which have been focusing, according to Myron Weiner, is the private consultancy firms. Private consultancy firms. TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, is one important consulting agency. Then there are so many people nowadays in the private sector. Even your Prashant Kishore is emerging as a one very big businessman in terms of making the political management itself as a money making activity. Because so that is also is a consultation, because he has started this IPAC organization providing the political consultation to the leaders of the political parties. The services of this IPAC is being used by government. I mean, YSRCP in Andhra Pradesh, DMK in Tamil Nadu, then at one point of time BJP, before 2014, at another point of time Congress party also tried, and then so now it has become a political consultancy even by the private firms, especially during the time of elections, and then even post-election also continuous process monitoring. That is a monitoring of the performance, policy and governance performance is being monitored by these organizations like the IPAC. In fact, IPAC has become a guide for the political parties. In fact, the university professors are not becoming the guide to a political party leader. These people, this Prashant Kishore, he did some MBR, social science, social work, and he worked somewhere in Africa as a volunteer or employee of United Nations program, came back India and started his this consultation business. And of course, he has also saying, speaking about the voters' corruption, etc. That is a different issue. So these are the four major types of institutions which have been identified by Myron Weiner as the institutions which have been contributing immensely for the policy making today in the country. So then what other scholars says about the concept, idea of policy making in India? If you look at B.S. Minhas is again an eminent economist at one point of time in India. He wrote an important article in Economic and Political Weekly some time ago. He says that political leadership, bureaucracy, intellectuals, and business leadership has been playing a significant role in public policy making. So that was the conclusion that was drawn by B.S. Minhas in that article. Political leaders, when the elected public representatives as the political executives, whether it is a prime minister, chief minister, member of the parliament, member of the state legislative assembly, or leader of the political parties, opposition parties, is the one actor. The second important actor is the bureaucracy, because bureaucracy, it is not only implementation of the policy, but experiences gained in the process of the implementation of the policy, and their documentation process is also another important component. Then intellectuals. So when you look at the policy advisors to the during the planning era, right from the first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, you can see a series of the public intellectuals like V.K. R.V. Rao is the one important one. Dandekar and Rath. Then at one point of time, in fact, Manmohan Singh was also an economist who was an advisor. This founder of Indian Institute of Statistics. Then series of such a type of people. Even recent times also, even in the Niti Ayoga also, there are good number of public intellectuals who have been providing a lot of inputs into the making of the public policy. One is Aravind Panagaria and present deputy chairman of the Niti Aayog. These are the examples for the intellectuals who have been taking part in terms of providing the policy as per B.S. Minhas. Then business leadership. It is not necessarily only these type of people. Even the business leaders who have gained experience as the executives in terms of execution of their plans. They are also the business leaders are the important players. Then coming to the Rudolph and Rudolph, when you review the book, that is In Pursuit of Lakshmi, by Rudolph and Rudolph, they have identified that strategies of the policies in India, they have classified into 4 categories. One is the land reform, releasing the forces of production, providing technology to agriculture to achieve the goal of self-reliance, basic needs and income distribution, and generation of employment opportunities in rural areas, and increasing investment in agriculture. So these are the various policies that have been initiated in India and categorized and identified by Rudolph and Rudolph in their book In Pursuit of Lakshmi in 1987. Shall I continue? Would you like to have some brief break? Madam?
Sir, 2 minutes break. We will just 1 minute break, sir. We will connect it to power. Is it okay? Just 1 minute.
Okay.
Right.
Now 4:46. You can again reassemble at 4:48 or 4:43. Okay.
Okay, sir. Just okay, sir. Thank you. Sir. Sir, we can continue, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, am I making a sense? Please respond me, the participants.
Yes, sir, please, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now, then coming to another important scholar who has immensely contributed for the study of the political economy of the politics and public policy in post-independent India is by Franz and Frankel. Francenar Frankel, she says that there has been a paradox of politics and public policy in post-independent India. What is that paradox? Is that there has been a contrast or contradiction between the kind of politics that have been adopted and the kind of policies which have been initiated in the post-independent period could not achieve the expected goals. That is the critical analysis that has been identified by Franzen or Frankel. Then other important observations, studies or policy making in India has been shaped by multiple factors such as globalization and localization, growing demands and movements for transparency and accountability, and a growing intellectual interest in the study of policy implementation process, the professionalization of bureaucracy, and an institutionalization of the research policy interface. So these are the various factors which have been influencing the policy making process as per the studies that has been as per a book that was edited by Avinash Kumar, Vishal Narayan. They have identified all these factors which have been uh, critical factors in terms of making of a public policy in India. And then these are some more important people who have studied the process of the policy making in India. Another one is Anindya Chowdhury. She wrote an important article about it is some sort of a review of the policy studies in India since 1947. She has published an article in Economic and Political Weekly in 2016. The observations of Anindya Chowdhury includes the historical genesis of policy making in post-independent India can be traced back to political regime of Jawaharlal Nehru. The paper provides the role of policy advisors in shaping the public policy making in India. That is she has identified that is the policy advisors. The author observed that during the phase of Nehru, there was a space for academicians. However, over a period of time, the study of public policy is being located in the management institutions like Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Technology. So for the first time, the diploma in public policy and governance was introduced by Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, then Calcutta, and then Mumbai and other Delhi, etc. Even Indian Institute of Technology has been focused on this aspect of introducing of the diplomas. Now, even if you look at the historical process that has been studied by Anindya Chowdhury, these are the institutions which have been getting a lot of projects, crores worth of project. Indian School of Business that has got crores worth of project to study about the Aadhaar. Aadhaar is being studied by now the Indian School of Business. Similarly, these management institutions, technological institutions have been getting lot of crores worth of projects directly from the ministry to study about the policy process in the country. So therefore, rightly she has rightly observed that management and technological institutions are getting a lot of space in terms of providing of the policy inputs to the government of India. Now, even if you look at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Indian School of Business, Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Technology, Indian Institute of Science, etc. And then Kuldeep Mathur. Kuldeep Mathur is the another important scholar who has immensely contributed for the study of public policy and politics in India. In his book, he says that there are paradigms such as governance, academic institutions, economic reforms, and administrative reforms. These have set the agenda for the policy initiatives. See, one important illustration that I would like to connect here in this aspect, since Professor Kuldeep Mathur has referred to administrative reforms, is that when you look at the reports of the Second Administrative Reforms Commission, which have been introduced as a result of, which have been studied from the point of view of new public management theory. The new public management theory, that is what he has been referring to the academics. Is a new public management theory that has been came into existence in the post-globalization process, while creating space for the multiple institutions such as state, market, and civil society. So therefore, Kuldeep Mathur has been focusing upon the state, civil society, and market paradigm in terms of understanding of the politics and the public policy. Then Narayan and Vishaka, they have observed the management institutions of Calcutta, Bangalore have launched the master's program in public policy. The evolution of public policy as a separate discipline and expansion over a period of time can be traced back to the institutions of technology, universities, social science institutions, law schools, etc. These institutions have been focusing on public policy from the academic point of view in terms of teaching and research. Apart from the technological institutions, management institutions, and recent times, if you look at Central University of Rajasthan, they have introduced a separate MA in public policy, governance, and law. And then National Law School, Bangalore, and even Hyderabad also, they have got courses on public policy. So that is why Narayan and Vishak have been referring to emerging trends, recent trends in the study of the shift from management technological institutions to the social science institutions, universities, and independent institutions, like central universities, etc. So, while keeping in view broadly, when you the kind of review of literature that has been existing, because when you comparatively analyze the literature on public policy in India, there has been a dearth of literature. Whereas in Western societies, say for example America, one can find a plenty of literature on to study the politics and public policy. But here in India, there has been a series limited literature. That I will come. What are the trends? What are the various perspectives? Meanwhile, so when you browse the literature and policy, public policy, these are the broadly institutions which have been existing in terms of distribution of the resources through the policy making in response to the kind of political problems which have been emerging in the country. Number one, the Planning Commission that was in existence since 1950 to 2014. That was predominantly during the Congress period. And then state planning boards from 1960s onwards. Then district planning committees from 1990s onwards. Then micro planning at the village councils level from 1990s. And then Niti Aayog from 2014 onwards. That came into existence during the political regime of Bharatiya Janata Party and NDA political regime. So when you look at in these four types of institutions, this planning commission and the Niti Aayog, they are not the constitutional bodies. They have been constituted through a ordinary GO that has been issued by the Union Cabinet. Union Cabinet. These two institutions have been constituted only through the ordinary executive GO issued by the Union Cabinet. They are not they are not constitutional bodies. State planning boards, they are constituted by through an ordinary GO issued by the State Legislative Assembly. And the district planning committees and micro level planning at the village level, these are the constitutional bodies that one must distinguish. And especially the faculty members of political science must keeping in view that the planning commission, district planning boards, the Niti Aayog, these are all these are not constitutional bodies. These are only the district planning boards, and then micro level planning, participatory planning at the village level are the constitutional bodies which have got the constitutional status through the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act has been providing the reservations for the women, lower caste, and the Gram Sabha, Election Commission, Finance Commission, then the participatory planning for the socio-economic transformation, whereas 74th Constitutional Amendment Act is essentially focusing upon the vertical integration and horizontal consolidation of the planning process right from the Gram Sabha to village level to the national level, district level, and then integration with the state planning board and then national planning board. So these are the three important institutions which have been existing in the country for the policy making process. What are the sources that has been there in the country in terms of making of the public policy? These are the essentially you are getting while browsing of the literature on policy. One is the government research institutions, which I have already discussed, the autonomous research institutions, the higher education institutions, private consultancy firms, science and technology institutions, national and state level institutions, and of course nowadays even the international institutions like United Nations Development Program, the World Bank, they are also providing of the research support and policy support. They are also initiating a lot of efforts for the capacity building, contribution for the planning policy making in the country through the capacity building. They are providing a lot of grant for the capacity building for the policy making in the country. So these are international organizations are also contributing towards the enriching of the policy making process in the country, which is an instrument in order to address the political question. So now, when you look at the whole entire process of the politics and public policy convergence process, and then interconnection, and then correlation between these two, broadly, while in the when you survey the entire process of 76 years of post-independent Indian politics and public policy, these are the broad trends one can come across. And of course, there's been some sort of a paradox. This has been some sort of a paradox. The paradox is software and hardware of politics and public policy, rights and directives, accommodative politics and radical social change, strong state and rich poor economy. That is another paradox. The conservative democracy and creolization of democracy, global capital and ethnic nationalism. So these are the kind of a paradox that has been emerging in terms of understanding of the terms of a process of politics and public policy in 76 years of independence. So when you look at the series of works that have been existing, these are the kind of paradoxes which have been emerging. So when you look at the hardware and software of politics of public policy in post-independent India, you can see the studies of Rudolph and Rudolph. The studies of Rudolph and Rudolph, broadly, these are the three important contributions. One is the modern day of tradition. Second book is In Pursuit of Lakshmi, and third is Explaining of Indian Democracy. So these are Rudolph and Rudolph are wife and husband American scholars who have studies in in Chicago, and they were strongly influenced by the behavioral sciences, and they try to apply whatever the liberal democratic framework that they have learned in the process of studying of the behavioral revolution. Then they came to India and started studying. These are the first political scientists who have understood and applied survey research in India. You know, soon after independence in India, there was some set of apprehension about the Indian people, Indian voters, whether the Indian voters have the capacity to participate in the electoral democracy, whether the Indians have the capacity to run their liberal democratic parliamentary system. So, because in view of the Westerners, India means it is the India of the snake charmers. India means they are marrying the girl children at the age of 4 or 5 years when they are in the cradle. And India means that was the country of the illiterates. India means it is a poverty-ridden country. India means it was a backward country. So in such a kind of context, how the democratic politics is going to operate in India was an enigmatic puzzle for the scholars of the West, especially America. So therefore, in order to understand, to demystify whatever the kind of myths that have been built around the mindset that was built by the Western scholars about the India, they have for the first time, this Rudolph and Rudolph have came to study the Indian reality in 1950s. That was after the first general elections. They have started applying of the survey methodology in the Indian rural areas while taking Tamil Nadu as the case study. They have studied in depth what is the way of processing, what are the institutions which have been taking the idea of democracy into the social roots of this country. What are the institutions which have been existing in this country? This idea of democracy is a foreign idea, is an alien idea. And how this idea of democracy, the theory of democracy, is being operated in the Indian context? What is the kind of social structure that has been existing in the Indian context? So that was the basic fundamental question, research question that was raised by Rudolph and Rudolph. They have tested in Indian ground reality, that they have found that when you read this modernity of tradition, it was the caste associations or the instruments for the taking of the idea of democracy into the nook and corner of this country. It was the caste associations. The social infrastructure was provided by the caste associations, which have contributed immensely for the deep penetration of the idea of democracy into the Indian roots, Indian social society, because Indian society was a iniquitous social society. That is why hardware part of Indian democracy was the Indian social system. Indian social system was an iniquitous social relationship that was existed. That is what Ambedkar, when you read Annihilation of the Caste, you will be able to understand. And then even M.N. Srinivas, the dominant caste phenomena. So that is the kind of hardware that was existed in India when democracy was started to operate in 1950s in Indian context. So the software of the democracy and hardware of the Indian infrastructure, social infrastructure. So in between the hardware and software, they have got together, synergized through the institution of the social institutions like caste association, civil society that has played the role of a non-governmental organization, a role of the civil society organization, and that has become an instrument in terms of deepening of the idea of democracy and taking that idea into the nook and corner of this country and into the every social group. and that has led to the social transformation in the country. That is what they have documented in modern tradition. And then In Pursuit of Lakshmi was another important important test. That is what I said, strong weak state and rich poor economy, demand polity and command polity. These are the new perspectives that has been given to understand the politics. They have come to a conclusion by the time of publishing their book In Pursuit of Lakshmi in 1980s that now the state has become a strong weak on the one hand and rich poor economy on the other hand. So it is not what are the apprehension that was there before 1950s among the scholars of the West is being demystified. There has been a demand polity and command polity that today the Indians have been demanding for their rights and entitlements. That was the kind of phenomena, political transformation. That is the kind of awareness that was built by the political institutions, administrative institutions, policy making process in the post-independent period. Therefore, they have come to a conclusion that demand polity and command polity. Demand polity is coming from the grassroots, from the citizen, from the voters. Command polity here the political party as an instrument, whatever the polity that is addressing the issues of the emerging demands from the below is emerging as a command polity. That is what the kind of political transformation that has been taken place from 1950s when they published the first book, Modern Tradition, and by the time of publishing In Pursuit of Lakshmi in 1980s, and then later they have published under the title called In Pursuit of Lakshmi, 3 volumes, 3 important volumes that I must show you. It is about the 50 years perspectives on Indian democracy. This is the 1 volume. And then the second volume of the explaining of the Indian democracy is this is another volume that has been focusing on the inquiring of the theory. This first one is identity and reality. And then third one is realm of institutions, the realm of institutions. These are the 3 books they have documented the kind of political transformation that has been taking place in post-independent India. What was they have observed in 1950s, what they have written 1980s, and what they have published after 1980s is drastically bringing about a complete transformation in terms of hardware part as well as the software part of the Indian politics and public policy. So that is the brief in precise. Because of time is already 5:12. I will discuss at least 5 minutes, and then I will give you the more about 10 to 15 minutes time for the discussion. So now let me come to another important aspect of the political transformation and policy initiative in the post-independent India is another perspective, rights and directive principles. This is another paradox. There has been another paradox. At the same time, you can also see the rights-based approach as well as the directive principles, and over a period of time, the gap between the rights and directives paradox gradually coming down. Because if we can look at the series of the policy initiatives, at one point of time, the Gram Panchayat Raj institutions were in the directive principles of state policy under Article 42. But in 1992-93, there was a Constitutional Amendment Act 73-74. Subsequently, right to education, free and compulsory education was part of directive principles of state policy. But through the Right to Education Act that was introduced in 2009, the education is a fundamental right up to the age of 14 years. But now the new education policy has been recognized up to the age of 18 years is the fundamental primary education. So probably now you need to make another constitutional amendment, amending the constitution extending from 14 years to 18 years up to 12th class. Up to 12th class is the basic education, primary education that needs to be make a constitutional amendment. So therefore here my focus is that over a period of time, it has been becoming the fundamental, the directive principles are becoming the fundamental rights. So the best example are, as I said, one is 74th Constitutional Amendment, the Right to Education Act, the Right to Information Act, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and then recently introduced DPDP, Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. Right to privacy is the another act that has become another fundamental right, and that has become fundamental right through the Supreme Court verdiction on Aadhaar card, when there was a challenge by Justice Puttaswamy and Professor Shanta Sinha in the Supreme Court about the question of privacy in the context of the Aadhaar card, and then subsequently there was a conflict between the institutions of Parliament, Supreme Court, and then executive. Then finally it has been amended and recognizing privacy as a fundamental right. And recently the government, the Narendra Modi government, has introduced Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. So therefore, at one point of time, the directives are becoming nowadays the fundamental rights. So therefore, that is also another paradox that has been existing in Indian politics and policy making process. Due to over a period of the political pressure, the directive principles of the state policy are becoming the public policy. Then Franz and Frankel. So let me show you. I hope that many of you must have seen this book. You must have studied during your post-graduation and research days. This is a very bulky book. This is one of the monumental on understanding of the political economy of the politics and public policy since 1947 to 2004. 2004, because 2004 was the further edition they have revised it. So this is another important book that has been there and contributed by Franz and Frankel. She is a monumental scholar. She has, while reading, when you read this book, you can study, you will be able to understand what is the nature of politics and public policy and political economy of India. And she has what the major finding as well as the conceptual framework of Franz and Frankel to understand the political economy India is there has been a incrementalistic accommodative politics and a radical social policy agenda. Radical social policy agenda means you at one point of time you have stated the socialistic pattern of society, land distribution, garibi hatao, then bakery hatao, poverty, hunger, हटाने करने के लिए you have adopted the radical social agenda. However, in post-independent India, whether it is a single party domination of the Congress party or Bharatiya Janata, this coalition government or present second dominant political party called Bharatiya Janata Party, they have adopted some set of incrementalistic policies, accommodative politics, whereas their policy agenda is quite radical. Therefore, there has been a lot failure in terms of policy implementation. That is why there has been a dissatisfaction. There have been political movements, political agitations in the form of Naxalite movement, in the form of Sampurna Kranti movement, in the form of civil society movement, in the form of tribal dissatisfaction, dissent, etc. have been existing in Indian context. And then finally, just let me, Christopher Jefferlet, what is the kind of paradox that has been existing? Christopher Jefferlet is the another important scholar who has been immensely contributing in recent times to understand the political process of India. Is political process, the policy is that he says that he is identified the rise of Bharatiya Janata Party in the context of the global capital, Hindutva ideology, the leadership, and then social media. While utilizing of the social media, the Bharatiya Janata Party, emergence of the Bharatiya Janata Party in Indian politics, and its policy initiatives. So these are the important four factors. global capital, penetration of the global capital, Hindutva ideology, the leadership, the emergence of the single leader, dominant leader, the national politics, and social media became a potential factors for the rise of Bharatiya Janata Party. And this Bharatiya Janata Party was characterized, rise of Bharatiya Janata Party as in 4 ways by the 4 types of scholars. That is the Hinduization of democracy by Banjari Kadzu, second dominant political party by Chibbar, electoral authoritarianism by Suhas Palsekar, Yogendra Yadav, and ethnic democracy that was characterized by Christopher Jefferson. So recent his books are one is Silent Revolution, the Rise of Plebeians, Silent Revolution, the Rise of Plebeians. That is another book. And latest on Narendra Modi, he wrote another very important book titled Modi's India. The title of the book written by Christopher Jefferson and NDA government is Modi's India. So he is critical of the policies, the kind of policies which have been emerging, is being produced in the country. One is it is basically the corporate centric policies, the rich people centric policies, and then privatization of the entire economy, corporatization of the economy, and then crony capital centric model of the development process, and then making market and the corporate as the dominant players in Indian politics in terms of influencing the public policy rather than a common citizen, the poorest of the poor people, the civil society, the non-governmental organizations, the voice of the social movements is being weakening. That is the kind of conclusion that is being drawn by Christopher Jefferson about the politics and policy process in post-independent during the regime of Narendra Modi. So this is the here I stop and at least we got some 10 minutes time to interact to answer your questions. And this is the book written by Rajini Kothari. That is what the book that I was referring, Politics in India. So to understand the political process of post-independent India and public policy, you must read. These are some basic books which are essential for reading even for as a faculty and even prescribing for your students to understand the political economy, political process, political institutions of public policy process in post-independent India. And I stop here and let me give you a time for I don't know how much time Dr. Viswaratnamma Garu is going to give you. I have the patience to interact with you even for half an hour or more. So now I am expecting some questions from the participants. Your questions are most welcome.
Thank you, sir, for your outstanding presentation on politics and public policy in post-independent India. We are grateful to you for your availability to share your valuable thoughts and insights with us, sir. Thank you once again, sir. We have come to the end of day 2 webinar. So I would like to request the participants to clarify your doubts and queries on the topic politics and public policy in post-independent India. Now, sir is ready to clarify all your doubts.
Yeah, Juhi Sai.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, we as a democracy have made certain spectacular policies, be it Manrega, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Jan Dhan, but implementation has always been a problem when it comes to public policy. So how do we plug this gap and deal with the implementation problem in the public policy arena?
Yeah, that is a very important, valuable question. So that is what even in 1970s itself, this Francis and Frankel discussed in elaborate about one important chapter, why the public policy failure of implementation, elaboration. collaborated. But there is no monocausal theory. In fact, one will have to explain from a multidimensional factors in terms of implementation. When you look at whether it is a land reforms policy, now in 1950s the land reforms was there. Today the land acquisition, and even for that matter, MG and Rega. If we while examine closely, while taking any of these policies as a case study, if you look at it, there have been a lot of diversions have been taken place. Political interest, the political motivations, the vested interest. That is why Franz and Frankel has highlighted one of the important crucial factor was that the kind of political mobilization process that was initiated by Mahatma Gandhi and Congress Party, essentially, it has got some sort of a radical agenda, radical policy to bring about a political and social transformation in post-independent India. But Congress Party and Mahatma Gandhi legacy was grabbed by the landed dominant social forces in the village. Dominant landed social forces in the village and business and capitalist class in the urban areas. These are the people who have got immensely benefited. It is wrong to say that the policy has been completely failed. If policy is failed, how do you expect that today the kind of infrastructure in terms of road that are being laid in the country? It is because of policy. But who are getting benefited? If you look at the 4 lanes road, outer ring road, or international airport, Rajiv Gandhi International Airport, these are also outcome of the public policy that has been initiated in post-independent India. But here it is the rich who has been grabbing the outcome of the public policy. Whatever the tangible results which have been being delivered, these are all being going to the rich of the society. See, say for example, there was what is called as community development program at one point of time. Under the community development programs, 1970s and 80s, as a child in my village, I used to observe that the government of India and the name of the different social categories in the village, the various projects have been sanctioned for their generating of the employment opportunities, livelihoods. But only the Karnam and Munsab has grabbed the entire fruits of the development, and the entire post-independent public policy was concentrated in the house of the Karnam and Munsab. But of course, now that the institution of the Karnam Munsab is no more existing, during my childhood days, a project was sanctioned on the name of my parents, my relatives, and all the whatever the loan that has been sanctioned from the bank was is a debt on their name. But whatever the tangible outcome in terms of purchasing of the material, whether it is whatever the material for the employment generation or livelihood source, they all went to the house of village Karnam and Munsab. These are the dominant political force of the village. They have grabbed it. Whereas the grassroots level communities, social groups have been deprived. So here, the question of the social voice, the voice of the people, the poorest section of the people have been denied of the voice during the Congress model of the development and Mahatma Gandhi mobilization process. It was the rich people who have got immensely benefited from that. So that is the one important reason for the failure of the implementation process. And then second important factor is that the bureaucracy. In the Constituent Assembly debates, you must have seen that there was a question that why there should be ICS, Indian Administrative Service, Police Service, even in the post-independent India. They were introduced by the colonial rulers to fulfill their interests in terms of collection of the revenue and maintenance of the law and order. That was the basic intention of the purpose. Whereas in the time of Constituent Assembly, there was a discussion that in post-independent India, the colonial bureaucracy is supposed to become an agent as an instrument for the social transformation in the country. That is the logic, that is the philosophy on which today you have the district collector office, you have the district superintendent of police office, the district revenue administration, the Jilla Parishad, etc., etc. Jilla Parishad is essentially representing for the developmental administration. The district collector magistrate is representing for the revenue administration. In the process of implementation of these two instruments, whether your Jilla Parishad, the district collectorate, are habituated for the corruption. So in the bureaucracy, there has been a large scale corruption. Therefore, at one point of time, Rajiv Gandhi said that when you are channelizing 100 rupees to the poorest of the poor people, it is only the 15 rupees that is reaching to the deserving people, whereas 85% is being grabbed. Therefore, these implementing agencies have been entering into the corruption. Therefore, they are able to build the multi-floor buildings in the Jubilee Hills, Banjara Hills, Punjab Bagh. After the posh ilakas have been coming up in the urban areas, and this is because of the kind of corruption. At the cost of the developmental initiatives, corruption by the bureaucracy, they are building the very big buildings, they are purchasing very big houses, they are constructing their not only plots in their own country, in abroad also. We have seen the series of the scams, even senior IAS officers are also involved, even ACB, ED, all these CBCID, all these people have institutions have been engaged in terms of at least may not be curbing, at least to grab whoever involved in the corruption on the basis of certain evidences. So therefore, corruption is the another. And third one is that lack of institutions for the community participation, enriching the voice of the voiceless. Therefore, today at the grassroots level, we have the self-help group movement for the women, the Panchayat Raj institutions. Of course, Panchayat Raj institutions are defunct. So many parallel institutions have came into existence, and it is only the self-help groups that have been bringing up a certain set of creating impact upon the life of the women. In fact, they are contributing. If you look at what is the impact of the self-help group movement, when you ask me question, they are contributing immensely for the reducing the age of this marriage gap. Before self-help group movement was started, the age of the girl child used to be at the young age. But nowadays, the marriage is being postponed and the woman is being sent to the higher education, and they are entering into the different diversified employment opportunities, the one impact. Therefore, because of this institution has been generating, self-help group institution has been generating the social capital. So at one point of time, there were no institutions, and now the institutions have been created, but they are used for the vote bank electoral politics rather than for the empowerment of the grassroots level people, whether it's a women, lower class, lower caste, rural areas, and poorest of the poor people. So these are the three important factors that I will come across. And I am not attributing the failure to the poverty, backwardness, unemployment, and again unemployment to the backwardness and low income, because there has been a capital in this country. If we can look at this Oxfam report, the Oxfam report has found that 85% of the wealth in this country has been concentrating in the hands of the 15% of the rich people, and 85% of the poorest of the poor people in this country has got only 15% of the wealth. So in this context, how do you attribute lack of resources, backwardness, lack of capital? There has been a capital, there has been a wealth in this country, but 85% of the wealth in this country is being grabbed by the 15% of the rich, and 85% of the poor is having only the 15% of the wealth for their livelihoods or employment opportunities. That is the contradiction. That is the enigmatic puzzle that has been existing. That is the paradox of post-globalized world. That is the paradox of the post-globalized world. So these are the factors that I attribute for the failure of the implementation. Yeah, okay. Next, any other query? Any other question, please?
Is there anyone else to ask?
So many people are not asking the question, means that you must have understood everything, or else you have not understood anything. So what is that? Have you understood everything, or you have not understood anything?
Understood, sir. There are no more questions to ask, sir.
Okay, I don't know to what extent. Yeah, Dritima Deka from Assam seems she would like to ask a question. Yes, Dritima.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for your insightful lecture. My question is,
Yeah.
how much the public policy aimed on capacity building of people? How much they are focusing on capacity building of the people? As we can see, the government through policies, they are providing free greens, free food supply. But in a way, we are seeing that there is a low level of production, and people are also, we can say that people are also selling those free supply of grains through various means. So, what is your take on this?
Yeah, Dritima, you asked a very big question. In fact, that whole question 2 hours lecture must have been revolving around this question of political economy of freebies. Political economy of the freebies. See, one thing is the basic intention of public policy is got three objectives. One is resolving of the conflicts. Second is deepening of democracy, and third is facilitating for the participation. So these are the three important aspects, and certainly the public policy has been contributing immensely for the social transformation, and political transformation, and economic transformation in the country. But now, see, being a middle class public intellectual academician, we essentially looking at whatever the some incrementalistic benefits which are being given to the poorest of the poor people as part of the electoral politics. But we never look at what is the quantum of economic benefit that has got to the Reliance Ambani, Tatas, Birlas, DLF, Ramoji Rao, or the rich people, the politicians, the rich industrialists, Subbarami Reddy, and etc. What is the benefit that is being as a result of politics and public policy that the industrialists, the business people, the corporates, the crony capitalists have been getting, that we never seen, that we never estimated to look at it. But today, freebies means it is depositing about to some 15 to 16,000 rupees for in the account of a woman who has been sending her child to the school. The freebies means the farmers who have been getting under the Raitu Bandhu or etc. some set of incrementalistic benefit, because the farmer is the backbone of the Indian economy. Is the farmer who has been giving a immense subsidy to this country. Farmers have been committing suicide, and when the women self-help group is getting some set of a financial support in order to do some set of marketing activity, business activity, or subsidy on gas, then free travel in the RTC buses in Karnataka that has initiated. Women can travel in the road transport corporate buses, and they can also in Telangana also the Congress government has promised. These are the examples for the freebies. You tell me, what is the total economic burden to the economic exchequer as a result of traveling of the women without paying by RTC bus to any part of the state, in a state. Nowadays there has been politicians are also, they are not such fools. On the one hand, they have reduced the number of the road transport buses, increase in the private transport. For the nowadays, the rural areas, there is no road transport service. It is only auto service or cabs, private cabs. But there is no facility. It is only certain areas, certain towns, etc. This bus transport has been there. If we give the free facility for the transport to the women is able to go and do the marketing activity, employment generation, and then diversified source of employment opportunities. Subsequently, when they pay GST, that will be taken back, whatever the transport expenditure that has been incurred as part of the electoral agenda. So even if a child is getting under the Ammavadi scheme, for example, in Andhra Pradesh, some 15,000 rupees in the deposit in the account of a woman, that is being for having send her child to the school. This education is going to become a human capital, a potential human capital for the future. And because of the people have examined what are the reasons for the dropout. The reasons for the dropout was this poverty, ridden families, lack of income generation activities. Therefore, they are depositing in advance 15,000 rupees per year to the school going child. So that is the freebie that we are. But have you ever seen how many lakhs of subsidies have been given to the corporates, business people, then all the industrialists? We don't know. We never estimated. We never even thought of looking at it. Why this public-private partnership? What is the logic of the public-private partnership? Who is getting benefited of the public-private partnership? Tell me what percent of the poorest of the poor people are getting the benefit as a result of the public-private partnership. I can give you one illustration. There is already I gave you. Under the policy called public-private partnership, 4-lane rails
Thank you,
have
sir.
been built. 4-lane rails have been built. International airports have been built. What percent of the poorest of the poor people have been utilizing this infrastructure? The state has said that I don't have the financial resources. Let the private sector with the technology and financial resources enter into the public, enter the infrastructure building, and they build beautiful infrastructure. But who is getting benefit? It is the top 5% of the society, creamy layer of the society, 5% of the creamy layer of the society. They are getting a lot of subsidies. When you comparatively analyze the freebies and subsidies which have been given to the corporates, then crony capitalists, business people, industrialists, there has been a lot of disparity. But the thing is that there will be a lot of advertisement in the media, social media, print, electronic media for the whatever the incrementalistic benefits that are given to the poorest of the poor people. But you never come across any information what is the kind of under the public-private partnership, how many business houses have been given, the incentives by the government, subsidies by the government, that we don't know. So let the political science policy experts must focus comparative analysis of the incentives, subsidies that have been given to the rich people, their benefits, how many lakhs worth of crores, and what is the worth in economic calculation of the freebies that has been given to the poorest of the poor people. That we need to gauge it while living in an electoral democracy, while paying the taxes under GST. It is the poorest of the poor people who have been paying the highest percentage of GST. It is the rich who has been getting, and there the rich people are paying the less GST. You can also see the comparative statement analysis. So that is what critical analysis, that is what public policy crux has been lies. Okay. Yeah. Any other question, please?
Arnodaya, I think we can wind up the session because already it is late. Okay, If there are no further questions, we can wind up.
Okay.
Sister. Thank you, sir. I would like to propose vote of thanks. Respected correspondent, principal, colleagues, our most valued speaker of the day, Dr. E. Venkateshu, and all the participants, on behalf of the entire fraternity of JMJ College, I extend my words of gratitude to all of you who have spared your time from your busy schedule to join for the webinar from FDP. First, I extend my sincere thanks to our resource person, Dr. E. Venkateshu, for accepting our invitation and sharing his valuable thoughts with us. Thank you, sir, for your interesting and highly informative session. I express my deep gratitude to our correspondent, Dr. Sister Theresa Magade, and Principal, Dr. Sister Shaini KP, for supporting us to organize this webinar come FDP. I also thank Mr. Murali and Mr. Srikanth for their technical support to conduct this webinar come FDP successfully. Finally, I wholeheartedly thank all the participants for their active participation. Before winding up the webinar, I would like to make a few announcements to all the participants. Feedback form will be sent to your registered mail ID within 2 hours. All those who are attending the webinar and filling up the feedback every day will be receiving the e-certificate at the end of 1 week national webinar from FDP. So, once again, I thank you all for making this day 2 webinar very effective and successful. Hope to meet you all for the third day of the webinar tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome, you are most welcome for valuable interaction. Thank you.
Thank you,
See you,
sir.
bye. See you, bye, Minister.